Learn English through story. The Whisper of the Wind. In a quaint village nestled between rolling hills and ancient forests, there lived an old man named Elias. He was known as the village hermit, a man who had once been full of life and laughter but had withdrawn from the world after a series of tragic events. Elias lived alone in a small, weathered cottage on the outskirts of the village, where he spent his days tending to his garden and avoiding contact with others. Many years ago, Elias had been a well-respected carpenter, admired for his craftsmanship and generous spirit. He had a loving wife, Mary, and a young daughter, Leila. The three of them were inseparable, and their home was filled with warmth and joy. But one fateful winter, an illness swept through the village, claiming many lives, including Mary and Leila's. The loss shattered Elias, leaving him a shell of the man he once was. He abandoned his trade, withdrew from the village, and chose a life of solitude. The villagers respected Elias's grief, and over time, they grew accustomed to his absence. They left him alone, only seeing him occasionally when he ventured into the village for supplies. Despite their attempts to reach out and offer support, Elias remained distant, his heart locked away behind walls of sorrow and regret. One autumn evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the village, Elias was sitting on the porch of his cottage, staring blankly at the sky. The air was crisp, and the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the faint scent of pine and earth. As he sat there, lost in thought, he heard a rustling in the bushes near the edge of his garden. At first, Elias ignored it, assuming it was just a wild animal. But when the rustling persisted, he reluctantly got up to investigate. To his surprise, he found a small, ragged-looking dog, its fur matted and its eyes wide with fear. The dog had clearly been abandoned, and it looked up at Elias with a mixture of hope and trepidation. Elias hesitated, his first instinct to turn away and leave the dog to fend for itself. But as he looked into the animal's pleading eyes, something stirred within him, a memory of Leila, who had always loved animals and had begged him for a pet dog every year before she died. Against his better judgment, Elias sighed and knelt down, extending a hand to the dog. "Come on, then," he muttered, his voice gruff from years of disuse. The dog approached cautiously, sniffing Elias's hand before pressing its nose into his palm. The touch was warm, and for the first time in years, Elias felt a flicker of warmth in his heart. He gently patted the dog's head, and the creature responded by wagging its tail, a small gesture that brought a faint smile to Elias's lips. He led the dog into his cottage and offered it some scraps of food. The dog ate hungrily, and afterward, it curled up by the fireplace, content to rest in the warmth. Elias watched the dog for a while, feeling a strange sense of comfort in its presence. That night, for the first time in years, Elias slept soundly, the weight of his grief slightly lifted by the company of his new companion. In the days that followed, the dog became a regular part of Elias's life. He named it Rusty, after the color of its fur, and began to take it with him on his daily walks through the forest. As the seasons changed and winter approached, Elias found himself speaking to Rusty, sharing thoughts and memories he had long kept buried. Rusty listened silently, his eyes full of understanding, as if he could sense the pain that Elias had carried for so long. The villagers began to notice the change in Elias. He was no longer the ghost of a man they had grown accustomed to seeing. There was a lightness in his step, and though he still kept to himself, he no longer seemed burdened by the same heavy sorrow. Occasionally, he would stop to chat with the villagers, something he hadn't done in years. They welcomed the change, happy to see glimpses of the man they once knew. One day, as Elias and Rusty were walking through the forest, they came across a young woman sitting by the side of the road, her face streaked with tears. She was lost, having wandered off the path while hiking. Elias, who had once avoided contact with others, felt a pang of sympathy. He approached her, offering to guide her back to the village. The young woman, whose name was Clara, gratefully accepted Elias's help. As they walked, she shared her story of how she had come to the village seeking solace after a difficult breakup, hoping that nature would help heal her broken heart. Elias listened quietly, feeling an unexpected connection to her pain. When they reached the village, Clara thanked Elias and asked if she could visit him sometime to hear more about the forest and his life in the village. Elias was taken aback by the request but found himself agreeing. Over the next few weeks, Clara visited Elias regularly. They talked about life, loss, and the things that mattered most. Clara's presence and her willingness to listen helped Elias begin to heal in ways he hadn't thought possible. As winter settled in, Elias realized that his heart, once frozen by grief, was slowly thawing. Rusty and Clara had helped him see that life, despite its pain, still held beauty and connection. He began to take up his carpentry again, creating small wooden carvings that he gifted to the villagers and to Clara. By spring, Elias had transformed from the reclusive hermit into a man who had rediscovered his purpose. He knew that the pain of losing his wife and daughter would never fully disappear, but he also understood that it was possible to carry that pain while still finding joy in the present. Rusty's arrival had been a turning point. A reminder that life, no matter how hard, always offered a chance for renewal. The villagers welcomed Elias back into their community, and Clara, who had found her own healing in the village, decided to stay. She and Elias became close friends, and together, they created a small workshop where they crafted wooden toys and furniture for the children of the village. Elias had once believed that his life was over after the loss of his family, but now he knew that life had given him another chance. The wind still whispered through the trees, but now, instead of mourning, Elias heard in it the song of hope, a song that reminded him that even in the darkest times, the possibility of new beginnings was always there. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed, then please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.